Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the Sudan Revisited, and we have with us to talk about the Sudan, Dr. LMadu. Dr. LMadu is the president of the Pan-African Conference, and of course Dr. LMadu will give us some additional information in reference to his background and his education. I think that Dr. LMadu is also an international lawyer. Dr. LMadu, why don't you give us a little information about who you are and the situation that you find yourself in today?
Well, I'm here to talk about the Sudan this morning. As you know, those of us who've been working, for the economic and political development of Africa, have been following this event for a long time now. As most of you know, the Sudan is one of the largest countries in the world, and the largest country in Africa anyway, with over 1 million square miles, twice as large as Western Europe, and larger than the United States east of the Mississippi. And since the 1950s, there have been conflicts going on in Sudan between the Arab North and the so-called Christian South. The first phase of the war, ended in 1972 with the Addis Ababa Agreement between General Lagu, who was then the commander of the Anyanya forces in southern Sudan, and President Numeri of the Sudan. That agreement, ushered in peace for a while.
That was in 72, that agreement?
In 72, until 1983, when President Numeri abrogated the agreement and imposed Sharia law. Sharia law means Islamic law on the whole of the Sudan, including the Christians. This led to a rebellion, a new rebellion led by John Garang, who became the leader of the Sudanese People's Liberation Army, and his political wing, the Sudanese People's Liberation Movement. That war continued until the historic agreement that was signed on January 9th, this year, to end the war.
Now, when you talk about ending the war, Dr. LMadu, I think you've already said that this war has lasted for the last 50 years almost. What basis do you find between the agreement that has now been signed between the Sudanese government and the SPLA, the Sudanese People's Liberation Army? I mean, the leader, I think, that you mentioned has been at odds in terms of leadership here. I think people have accused him of being a murderer and et cetera and et cetera. But now, this new agreement, what makes you hopeful in reference to that agreement?
Well, the difference this time is that the agreement is supported by some foreign powers, predominantly the United States. The agreement that was signed on January 9th has 3 important conditions that makes peace, a hopeful sign. A, it has a 6-year window, for the southern region to be quasi-independent following a referendum for them to decide whether they're going to be independent or still part of the Sudan. 2, 50-50 sharing of the resources of the country between the north and the south, which wasn't there before. Third, the southerners will have at least 30% of the government positions in the Sudan. And fourth, Colonel Garang himself will become vice president of the Sudan. There will be a 10,000-man United Nations peacekeeping forces in the Sudan to guard the peace. Some of these conditions weren't available in the first agreement, so that's what makes this a more hopeful, agreement than the following agreement. To your second question about Mr. Garang, I have met him personally. And I think he's a capable and able leader. Like you said, people have accused him of wrongdoing and being a dictator, etc., etc. but from my own impressions, I think he's the only leader I know amongst, the Southern Sudanese who is capable of imposing the peace on the South. They have their differences, but personally, I think he's able.
You think that he would have more support among both sides than any other individual that you can possibly identify at this particular time? And I simply raised that as an introduction to the second segment as we make preparations now for our first commercial break. And we'll be back following this very, very short commercial break. We're talking to Dr. Leonard